Hello everyone, welcome to Gaga's Farmhouse. It's Friday and it's been a minute since I've been here because I've had a terrible early spring cold. My chalkboard says spring, but I may be a little premature because our temperatures are still going back and forth, and that kind of brings on some of this illness. I'll try to get through it without coughing because I've been coughing for a couple weeks straight. What I'd like to talk about today is downsizing. And I see a lot of discussion online at some of the senior sites about either staying in place or downsizing and how to make those decisions. So first of all, for us, there was no back and forth. There was no decision to be made from the first house because it was a very large house. It was about 4,000 square feet, and that didn't even include the full finished basement. So this house it was on 2 acres. Our kids were grown. My mother-in-law who lived with us had passed away, and there's just no way 2 people should stay in a house that size. It was too much work, and the taxes were punishing. So we made the decision to retire, move out of state, downsize to a 2,200 square foot house in a retirement community in Central Arkansas. It was a very nice community. It was although it was not strictly retired people, you didn't have to be retired to live there. It was mostly retired people. And after a certain amount of time, after moving from Illinois, we were there 8 years. There were things we liked about it. It's physically, geographically, it's a beautiful, beautiful area. But it's a food desert. So there weren't very many really nice restaurants that we could go to. And honestly, it got a little old there were too many old people. And I'm one. But the conversations were all centered around their health and their illness. We just longed to be around a variety of ages of people. We had a boat for a while. That was terrific. We enjoyed that. We got that during COVID, so we'd have something to do, with our spare time, go out on the boat. That got a little odd because our friends were not in a physical situation where we could invite them on the boat, because we were having nightmares about them getting on and off the boat. The boat's going like this, the dock is here, and there were just friends we couldn't invite because it was dangerous. So we did learn while being there that there's a tipping point in health and other issues. It's about 80. That's when you got to start thinking about the next step, doing the next step. The problem was we were 11-hour drive away from our kids, and we saw lots of people down there that when they had health emergencies, their kids had to get on a plane, fly down, try to help them handle the health emergency, fly back. It was just crazy. And we knew we had to make the decision before the decision was an emergency situation. You don't want to be making those choices in the middle of an emergency. So we made the decision to downsize again, come back to Illinois. It was the only decision we felt we could make. So then we're stuck. Now what do? We had a little place here. It was a little tiny cottage, about a half an hour from the kids that we had come and stayed during the summer. But it was way too small to live in full time. So we knew we had to do something different. So then we had choices. One of the choices here is these senior buildings that are like apartment buildings. So you can either have an apartment, you can move into an apartment where you're taking care of yourself. And then if you need assisted living, there are assisted living units that you could move to if your health declined that way. Well, we didn't like the idea of living in an apartment. That's a little bit too small. And we have a dog, so we didn't like the idea of getting in an elevator to take the dog out. That wasn't going to work for us. I mean, if we were a little bit not so healthy or independent, we might have done that. The other, one of the other options was condos or townhouses. Now, our son mentioned this because of the fact that you could have, the snow removal and the grass cut and everything, and that took that off your plate. But my husband works with some people. He's still working part-time at 80. Anyway, he works with some people, a woman who had lost her husband and decided she's going to go into a condo. And she did, and when she did, the condo, the HOA fees were not too bad. So it was working for her. But she told my husband now the condo fees are up to $500 a month. And she just has a two-bedroom, it might be two-bedroom, two-bath condo. Okay, those condo fees seem just outrageous because this year we only had 2 episodes where you had to shovel snow. And the grass season is truncated from other parts of the country because of our weather. So you might have to start mowing in May, late April, early May, and you mow until probably close to Halloween. So that's also, you have to take that into effect. And we figured if we lived somewhere else, we could buy a heck of a lot of snow removal and grass cutting for $500 a month. Okay, so that, I don't know. We did like the fact that also you're almost like sharing a driveway with someone. And then when you go out back to your patio is here and your next door neighbor's patio is right there. I mean, if you're trying to sit out and talk and have a conversation, your neighbor's right there. We didn't like that. And you couldn't have, even if you had a yard, you couldn't fence it for the dog. So you had to get up, leash the dog, walk the dog every time the dog goes out. So we didn't like that idea. Those were considerations there. So then we're thinking single family home. So in any case, it's going to be 1 level because our original house was 2 levels and a basement. And then we moved to the 1 level. That was perfect. We're sticking with that. So next there are senior communities. One we looked at here was Del Webb. And it was actually, there were a lot of activities. There was a clubhouse with all kinds of clubs. There were 2 pools. There were golf course. There was tennis courts, which is what we were used to in Arkansas, as we had all those amenities. But when we went and looked, the houses were really small, very small, and didn't have any storage. There were no basements, not much, not just a 2-car garage, nothing special there to do storage. And it also had HOA fees, but you're paying the HOA, and they didn't do any snow removal, and they didn't do any grass cutting. So you're still having to fork out that money on top of the HOA fee to maintain these golf courses, these pools, and some of it you might not use. And the taxes were very high, and the houses were very expensive. So even with all the, it had a restaurant, and even with all the flashy amenities, it did not make sense. And you have to be really truthfully, you really have to think, is that going to work for me or not? And so we did end up with a single family home in a community that's only like 20 minutes from our son. And it's 1,800 square feet, and that's 1921, about 400 square feet smaller than our home in Arkansas, which is good. It's less to take care of, but it does have a basement. So we have storage. Now that can become a problem because you really need to get rid of stuff. Don't put it in the basement. It's like a black hole. But it is good to have like a workshop down there and other things, because in the summertime, you're not going to be doing anything in the garage or outdoors. So you need to have a workshop area to do things like that. The taxes they're pretty up there, but anything in Illinois is going to be. And we do pay an HOA, but it's very minimal because they don't do anything. This is just to maintain the ponds. We have water retention ponds to keep the watershed and keep the area from flooding. And we have a nice entrance that's lit, and they plant flowers. So it's very minimal to maintain those things. So we're really happy that we made this choice. Like I said, it's only 1,800 square feet, so it is pretty easy to take care of. We have 2 extra bedrooms. One is a guest bedroom, one's an office. Those mainly stay closed because we don't have a lot of guests. And we do, I do my hobbies in there. So the office we use a little bit more, but we can keep that closed off and that stays clean. Only has 2 bathrooms, so we're taking care of those. It's these luxury vinyl floors. They're a little bit harder to take care of because you have to constantly be vacuuming, because all the little crumb, everything shows. So, but I have a little stick vac that does a good job. And we fence the backyard so the dog can just go in and out. And we have a number, like a little mini forest behind us. It's beautiful when it's all leafed out. And we have a farm field behind us. So it's really beautiful in the summertime when you have the field. Last year it was corn. This year it will be soybeans, because the farmers alternate the crops to maintain the field. So I encourage you to look at all your options and really think about it. Like, is this really going to work for us? Because, if you spend the money and you move, you're kind of stuck. And if you're unhappy, that's not good. We probably have one more move in us if we live into our 80s, and that's going to be again to some kind of a small condo or one of those apartment buildings. But we're going to live here as long as is possible and enjoy it. And like I said, just give it some thought, and I hope your retirement goes well. Enjoy yourself for what you can. And the things you age out of, it's just life. So thanks a lot for joining me at Gaga's Farmhouse. I'm glad to be back. I didn't cough too much through this one. My sister, who is one of my original subscribers, I only had 5 subscribers to start with, and one of them was my sister. She is leaving tomorrow on a trip to the land of our ancestors, which is Scotland. I'm so excited for her. This is something Her and I have always talked about, oh gosh, we'd love to go to Scotland. And she's finally getting to go. I can't wait to hear about her trip. She's going to Edinburgh to start with, and they're touring Edinburgh, and then she's going up into the Highlands to Inverness. And they're going to go to Loch Ness and some other sites. Now, our family's castle, the Nesbitt Castle, is actually down in the lowlands in the Borders region, and that's kind of not, it's really hard to plan any trips there. There's, you know, it's just really out of the way, so they're not doing that this time, but I'm really excited for her. So thanks for coming to Gaga's Farmhouse. I'll be back again with more tips, retirement and otherwise, and other things. And now I have, I think, 23 subscribers. Whoa, I'm cooking now. I'm burning up the internet. Thanks a lot for joining me. Bye now.